It seems like just yesterday that we were having the 10-year celebration for Riot Games, right? We had all these announcements, this big video, this larger than life celebration back on October 15th of 2019. Yes, that was the actual date for when everything was announced. You had reaction videos everywhere. It was this massive moment in League culture. But now, sitting in 2023, we're many years removed from that video, from those moments, from those announcements in that video. And I want to take a look back at it because it's important to note, given that we just got the announcement date for Arcane Season 2. We know it's coming in Q4 of 2025, which, as Necrit pointed out in his video, which side comment, I am not gonna lie, I panicked whenever I saw Necrit release that video. I was like, damn, is this gonna be the exact same thing that I was about to talk about? Luckily, no. He dove into Arcane and like what to expect for Season 2, which go check out his video if you want to see that as a reference. But I was thinking, okay, what's coming with the 15-year anniversary of League of Legends? If 10 years was big, 15 is still pretty big as well. Like, I don't know what the threshold is. I think it's like after 10 years, it's like every 5. Or no, I guess it's after every 5 year, or after like the 5-year mark, then you have to like skip to 10. You're not going to celebrate 6 to 9. You're just going to go like 10, 15. And then what, after your 15 year, you skip 20 and then go to 25. But this also lines up with the rumor that I heard at LCS Finals that yes, we are going to be getting some apparently big plans for 2025. Now, nobody would tell me what. These were just offhand rumors of like, yeah, Riot's planning this big reinvigoration of League of Legends in 2025 because, as you'll see as we go through this, we're in a much different state than we were back then. And the things that we need in 2024 are going to be much different than the things that we got excited about and wanted in 2019. So let's go back through this video. The first thing that I remember about this time was that there was so much stuff given out for free to people. I think there was like 10 straight days of free gifts if you logged on to the client, and as long as you logged on, you could like catch up on all the prior stuff. Like they gave away a ton of stuff. Now, would that be relevant for the 15-year celebration? Sure, people like free stuff. You know, I'm gonna save a lot of what I want for later. I'm just saying the community gifts, while they're nice and should be there, aren't gonna be the end-all be-all. And they weren't the end-all be-all of this video either, because the next thing that they talked about was preseason, which it seems pretty common nowadays that, hey, we got these different elemental drakes like fire, ocean. In the 6-year celebration, in celebration with the Arcane event, they also released Chemtech and Hextech drakes. But since that point, we really haven't seen much of anything. We actually saw some of the dragons go away and then come back with the Chemtech. So if you remember, it used to actually give you like a Scion passive. And we had these elemental drake changes back in the preseason for tenure. Not much has really changed since then. Like it really does feel like League kind of stalled out after that point. There wasn't much change then, and there hasn't been much change to the game since, barring items, barring new champions that come into the game. But like, let's be honest, there's really not all that much that has kind of changed the course of the game, which I think will be a big focus for the 15-year mark, but again, saving that for later. The thing that did strike me most about this video in hindsight and in retrospect rewatching is how much of it was focused around things that had nothing to do with the actual base game of League of Legends. In this video, kind of summarizing the later portion of preseason, it was all about TFT. It was about the mobile version of TFT coming, which, by the way, is still a great thing. This is not me saying this is not taking away from any of these announcements because they were big for Riot as a total company. But in terms of League of Legends, it really didn't mean all that much. But there was another game that was announced during this whole project, the big one. Wild Rift. You thought I was going to say the other one. We'll get to that. But no, Wild Rift is big. Getting League of Legends on mobile is massive. And there were talks at the time of, oh, would League of Legends eventually come to console, which I still think is like the most important, like non-directly League of Legends thing that could happen, that needs to happen at some point in time. You have to get this game on mobile or on console in some capacity if you want this game to succeed in America. Hopefully we'll see that become a big part of the 15-year celebration. Am I expecting that? No, we've heard no rumors, no nothing about it. I don't know, just getting in the mobile market was cool. But again, nothing to actually do with regular League of Legends. Now, if you recall correctly, there was an entire segment on esports, which transport yourself back to that time. This was just after G2 got beat by FPX in the finals of Worlds in Paris. Like, esports felt larger than life. It felt like this big thing that was going to go on to just revolutionize how video games are played at a competitive level, like what the sport looked like. And yeah, COVID hit and it hit really hard. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with this 15-year video, but it just is important to note, like, how much COVID really did set back a lot and help speed up the bubble bursting, which now going into the 15-year mark, we have teams selling from the LCS. Like, we are in the middle of the esports winter as orgs collapse and financially crumble because they just don't have the financial stability to even pay their bills. Sentinels are losing over $700,000 a month right now. It's not pretty. But as for that, like, actual esports announcement video, there were three main things. First, ProView, which came and went away and is no longer a product being sold at all to anybody. The market was apparently too small. It was not worth the cost of what they had to do to keep it up and running for people to buy it. It just is gone kaput. So one thing from that announcement, not relevant in today. The second major thing was live experiences like the Elder Dragon. You can't hold COVID against them. It just is what it is. Now, we got it back this past year, the first major opening ceremony with like a full crowd that we've had in North America, and I was there to watch it. It was great, but let's be honest, it didn't live up to the hype that was 2019 and that opening ceremony. I think that's still the best. And I'll make a separate video on that as we get closer to Worlds, kind of power ranking all the opening ceremonies. But yeah, it's just night and day. We're getting our feet back under us. I'm curious to see what they do this year, but those live experiences, we just fully got them back like in the last year and a half, 2 years. The third and final thing for the esports announcements, which this section was actually really small, I was expecting a lot more from it, was just that they had the esports manager mode, which came out for the LPL. I don't know if that's still a thing. I don't know if it's still running, but I can tell you, it's definitely not North America. Like, there was nothing really said in this esports part that carries through to today or gave you like any sort of like hope for the future and what it would look like. There's really not much you can ask for in terms of like right now, other than just like stability and Riot to start splitting skin sales and developing their own streaming platform that they've already talked about. But that's a conversation for a different day. Now we get to the big one that everybody actually did hear about and kind of knew, which was Valorant. Yes, the FPS game that has now become Riot's love child of esports. They're doing everything right there that we quite frankly didn't do right in League of Legends. The game is insanely popular, has taken over the PC shooter market here in America, and it's just a continuously growing and good game. It is still odd looking back on it that yes, we spent the majority of our time talking about a non-League of Legends title in this moment of memory. Like, they call it the League of Legends 10-year celebration, but it was more like the Riot Games 10-year celebration. Like, it feels weird now in hindsight to say that this was a League of Legends focused thing when it really wasn't. Barring the big announcement, which isn't gameplay related, but that was Arcane. And obviously the next year that would come out, it came out with a bang, one of the best animated series of all time, season 2 coming out in coordination with the 15-year celebration. That is going to drive unbelievable amounts of attention, hype, and also a little bit of pressure for Riot Games to deliver, because you're going to have more people playing League of Legends when Arcane Season 2 comes out that aren't currently playing now. We saw that the last time that this series released episodes and released its season back in 2021, because we saw spikes in the play rates for Jace, for Jinx, for Caitlyn, for Vi, for anybody that was affiliated with the show. And I'd expect, assuming Warwick is in Season 2, we'll probably see his play rate spike as well. Who knows? But the important thing to wrap up the whole Riot please is that they spent a lot of time not talking about the gameplay, the core thing that is going to keep people invested in League of Legends for an extended period of time. And they are not going to be able to do that with the 15-year celebration. There is more of an eye on this game than there ever has been before because of some of the flaws that exist. Riot dropping the ball over the last few years with their development. Game modes luckily have come back, but you still have a lot of people that are not happy with the base game of League of Legends where it's at right now, and some of the attention that other games get, some of the assets that they have that we just quite frankly don't have. So I'm expecting a lot from Riot on this 15-year celebration, because you have to reinvigorate this fan base, and you are not going to get a better chance to do that than when all eyes are already on it with Arcane. So here's 4 things that I want to see in the 15-year celebration of League of Legends, which should, by all accounts, be more focused on League of Legends than on other games. First and foremost, you need the thing that almost every other major game has, which is moving servers. It amazes me with how many games Riot has now that they don't just try and figure out some sort of server infrastructure that would allow you to be able to play the game at the server that's closest to your general lobby, which should generally reduce the ping for everybody there. It's something that Valorant already has, and I'm not sure who they pay for Valorant servers, but why doesn't League of Legends have this? Reducing ping for everybody is a universally good thing, especially those out on the West Coast, but even then, that's only 25% of the population. What about the South? The Northeast is on 20-some ping, but what if you could drop that to 10 for people? That becomes even better. Anything that you can do to increase the player experience in 2025 should be the only priority of this entire thing. The second is in line with something that Riot has already done for Valorant. They understand that solo queue and ranked is ultimately not the peak experience. It's playing with a 5-stack and playing with your friends or playing with your teammates and trying to do the best you absolutely can. We had this with Clash, but let's be honest, Clash is a very, very flawed system. For those that have never seen my videos, or this might be your first one, I play in rec leagues all the time that are a much better experience done third party, which is exactly what Premier is in Valorant that needs to come to League of Legends. And this is in line with the change that they made this preseason, that they're removing any time period that doesn't have rank. So rank will now continue all the way through to January and then just roll into the new season. So I think one thing that you can do to separate those ranked seasons and take a little bit less importance away from ranked and shift it towards a more competitive environment that is consistently there is by introducing Premier. My third thing is technically intertwined with all this, and that is something that has been known for a very long period of time. We need a new client in League of Legends. It is beyond outdated. It barely works half the time. There's issues with it all around. I don't care whether you have to build this game from the ground up, which I'm assuming they would have been working on by now. You need a new client that is actually functional and works. Valorant is able to view all their esports stuff within there. Valorant also just has this all-encompassing, like, modern-looking client that works in almost every regard. We just don't have that with League. Like, it's been a similar look for a long period of time now. Sure, there's some content on the front, but you can ignore it 90% of the time. Visually, it's not horrible. I don't want to take anything away from that, but, like, it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't fully work. Like, at this point, like, why when I launch League of Legends am I just not put into, like, this full screen, like, it takes over your computer and, like, you're engulfed in the world of League of Legends and you can do everything from said client, including directly watching esports matches. There's so much potential with the client itself that I know might be asking a lot given that League is designed to run on a potato. But if you can get that to work alongside the refresh and everything else that's coming, it's just needed at this point. It really is. That's like your number one way to market anything within League of Legends. So why would you not invest the most amount of time into that? And given that it hasn't worked in its current state, or at least not as effectively as it could, it needs an overhaul. My fourth and final thing is kind of small, kind of minor, but would have a pretty significant impact. And that is banning all Smurfs. I don't care how you got to tie it. I don't care how you got to make it work. Dota 2 just banned, 90,000 Smurf accounts. And I think that would drastically help the user experience within this game as well, because there's nothing worse than getting into a game and knowing that you lost from the minute you spawned in because you see somebody doing something that's clearly at an elo that's different than yours. And 90% of the time, it's content creators or people just trying to do clips and everything else, because like content in League of Legends is fundamentally built around people going in and just absolutely crapping on others. I don't get like how that became the focal point of content, but if you get rid of Smurfs, yes, content creators are going to have to adapt and find ways to be entertaining. Besides that, if you add Premier mode, that becomes a very, very good way to do it. But yes, I just think getting rid of Smurfs would help it would help some of the bigger pain points that exist within the game. Toxicity is a whole other issue that I don't have a good answer on, that I think needs to be addressed more in depth and more thoroughly. But I don't know, we'll see. Overall, the 15-year celebration for League of Legends needs to look drastically different than it did at the 10-year mark. It needs to be focused on the individual players and improving our experience within the game that will attract more people to the game. You could sit here and rely on your cash cows for League, but if you want this to just be a game that lasts for generations to come, you have to fix some of the fundamentals, because the floor underneath us is cracking, slowly but surely. And if you don't shore it up now, And if you don't do the things that we need to do to make sure that this is a positive experience for as many people as possible, it's eventually going to crumble down on you. And I just want to see Riot make the right long-term decisions. I know a lot of people are unhappy because a lot of the things that we've gotten promised in these dev updates, barring game modes, which have actually worked out pretty well, just seem to keep getting delayed, and people's faith in Riot keeps going down and down and down. But something like this would go a long way into helping us all. So please, Riot, for the 15-year celebration, you've already got every bit of momentum on your side with Arcane. Use that and make the most of it, and make the game better for everybody.